Hi, I'm Chelsea Freeman. I'm an advisor at Tonasket Choice High School in Tonasket, Washington. We're a super tiny rural school in north central Washington, really close to the Canadian border. And by super small school, I mean we have 26 students enrolled. And we've been a big picture school for 8 years, and we've been using Unrulr as a way to document our learning for 3 years, I believe now. Um, and I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to one of my students who's going to talk about her use of Unrulr and what she's learning. And so this is Hannah.
Hello, my name is Hannah. Um, I am from Tonasket, Washington, as just described. My main interests here at Choice are preparing myself for adulthood, such as finishing my resume and receiving my ID and then getting a job and vehicle. For the main topic of today will be about my internship and how I use Unruler to establish my learning, which in our school internships are a real-world community-based learning experience. It was one of the main benchmarks for being at Choice. My current internship is at Tonasket, where I'm typically co-secretary. Would we like to jump right into the Unruler post?
All right. And as I
Han-
go through this,
yeah, go
Hannah,
for it.
talk about what we're seeing here.
All right. I made this post because I was learning something new and different for me at my internship. I try to document each time I learn something new or take on a new project at my internship. I include photos of the boxes I am sorting and then labeled the pictures, which is the next picture over, for what was in each box so they could understand my process a little bit better. I also included an audio recording explaining why this task was important to me and to the business I work for. In this specific post, I sorted wheel weights. I began by explaining where wheel weights are used, and then I explained why I sorted the weights, what lead weights were, and finally how I could tell which were legible and which weren't. I typically make the posts of or just a week after sometimes. Uh, a few pictures and or videos, anything else that may be helpful.
What's the purpose of like seeing that learning over time for you, Hannah? Like being able to look at 5 or 6 posts or 15 posts, from the beginning of the year to the end.
It definitely reminds me of where I first started,
Totally.
like where I came from,
Yeah.
and remembering that over time. Um,
And
yeah.
can you hit the Chelsea, can you hit the X on the bottom right just to show the whole post in its entirety? So what's the act of posting like in Unruler? I see multimedia for you, Hannah. And then you're tagging to like competencies or skills. Is that right? Quantitative reasoning and knowing how to learn. And then you're writing a kind of narrative around that. How did you know what to tag? And where are these kind of cogs or these competencies coming from?
So let me see which. Can't really read that. So the knowing how to learn, basically summing it up, is just seeing where my skill level is at
Cool.
and how much I learned in that sense.
Yeah.
And the quantitative reasoning was including all the
Yeah.
counting, you know, figure out which ones can be in whichever box they're supposed to go in. And
And the process of the internship is for your teacher and for your fellow students, getting insight into what you're doing every time you go and kind of stacking that up over time. Is that right?
yes.
Cool. Chelsea, how did you set up this culture of documentation? Like, was it prompts and kind of discussion board questions in Unruler? Like, how did you make this great documentation possible?
So we've been growing our use of Unruler for the 3 years, and each year we're learning how to use it better. And I think the emphasis that I've put on it this year is to not just use it to like take a snapshot of a moment, but to take a
Totally.
snapshot of a moment and really be in that moment and reflect. Like, what am I doing right now? What does it mean to me? And to put more detail into either their commentary or if they have a video or if they have an audio, to have more detail in there. So that
Yeah.
that snapshot becomes not just a moment, but like an actual valuable moment that they can use when they get to the end of a term because none of us have the ability to remember what we were thinking and what we were learning
Totally.
the minute. But if you
Yeah.
can capture it, maybe even like Hannah said, not at the exact moment that you're there, but maybe you take the pictures and then the next day you're at school or the next day you're at home and you reflect and you're thinking about what did you do and how did it go. Um, when you come back to that 2, 3, 4 months later, to be able to summarize your learning and your experiences for the year in our program, which is required each term, this becomes such a valuable tool. So that's kind of the background of like why we value it and what we're doing with it, hopefully.
And what's cool about Hannah's post is you've got two photos that showcase what you're learning, Hannah. So it's like show, not tell, right? And then you've got an audio reflection that kind of hits at knowing how to learn, or the fancy terms we use like metacognition or self implication. And I love that, Chelsea. Like, how did you get your learners to not just take two photos and say, this is what I did, but to have this like rich level of like thought? I'm
Like,
sure it didn't just magically happen
no,
overnight.
I bribed them. Um,
Yeah.
well, for real, we have a raffle
She does.
raffle system. So if a student does a post and they just say something like "That's awesome," wonderful, they're engaging.
Cool.
But when a student has what we call a good post,
Yeah.
when they have put a level of detail in there that can actually help them be reflective and show growth over time, I give them a raffle ticket for that. And we do a raffle every week. And people donate, like someone just donated some gift cards to a local coffee shop in our raffle. And I bring in things like hats and socks and jewelry and snacks, just whatever. We have a
I,
pile of
I
raffles.
love this.
So,
You're lovingly bribing them to be better storytellers.
yes, and if
Hannah,
someone doesn't want
have
to
you
do it, then okay. But if you
totally
do, then awesome.
have you grown as a documenter and a reflector, as a storyteller? Has Unruler helped you become better at telling the story of your learning?
When I first started, I definitely started out really small because at that time we didn't have the raffle. And so it was always just one sentence or two. And like every student did, no, okay, not every student, but most of the students at Choice had started with only a sentence or two.
Yeah.
It wasn't fully completed. There was no like really engaging, in-depth comments or pictures or anything. And over the time that I've used it, it was slowly, I definitely rarely use it, but now more than before, I do definitely go a lot more in depth whenever I do post.
Chelsea, how do you get this level of documentation? Right? Do you have rubrics? Do you have guidelines? How do you, outside of glorious raffles, build this out? Is it a series of prompts that are like overly scaffolded and then you take the scaffolding off? Like,
That's exactly
give me,
right. That's exactly
give
right.
me, give me the how-to.
So we started the year with regular prompts. And at first, sometimes it was a prompt every single day
Mm,
that really just helped students to get comfortable with how to use it and whether they were, comfortable putting a picture on or whether they were just going to answer the prompt with text, kind of almost building their own personal style of how they were going to use it. And then over the year, I did less and less prompts because most of the students that were effectively using it and knew they wanted to keep using it already had built their kind of rhythm and had their own personal style for how they liked to document their work. I don't like to tell students how they like have a rubric of how you have to post. I want it to be authentic. I want them to use it in a way that like feels good and feels rewarding to them. So that was the beginning of how we set it up. But then I think the other thing that has been extremely valuable is me modeling it. So me
oh, I
going
love that. I
making
love
posts that are based on my personal goals. So
totally.
every student in our school has a learning plan. I have a learning plan.
I
Every
love that.
student posts about their progress on their goals. I post about my progress on my goals.
Totally.
And so
Totally.
then I
You're in it with them. You're in a
yep,
collective with them.
yep. So
Totally.
I model that and I show them like, oh guys, I just took all these things that were all related to this goal and let me show you how I made it into a journey. Right. So
Yeah.
some of our students hadn't gotten to that point yet where they were taking their posts and consolidating them to show progress over time. So I was able to do that and model it. And I think that that really helps too. So this was a journey that I just completed for a project that was on my learning plan, which was an art-based creative project to design and create a fashion outfit out of recycled products for what we call the Trash and Show in our town, which is a fundraiser for our local recycling company. And so I collected hundreds of toilet paper rolls and then I made dozens and dozens of three-dimensional flowers out of them. And then I had some
That's
donated
amazing.
floor floor protective paper from a flooring company, and also packing paper. And then I made this outfit out of it, and I walked the catwalk, and I won first prize for the adult category of trash and design.
And Hannah, why is it important for teachers to model good reflection and documentation for their students in Unruler?
I believe it's a little bit more encouraging for the students too, because then they're not just the only ones that are posting, and then it just feels weird, and there's no model to look after, because it's so much more encouraging when I see Chelsea posting, or just a staff member that I know is posting.
Chelsea, I've fully drank the Unruler Kool-Aid. One as a teacher, and then obviously I'm biased. I now work for Unruler, right? And but one of the things I love about it is that it makes learning less lonely, and it gives teachers insight into like the actual real-time growth of their students,
Hmm.
right? And I would love for you to just talk about that and like the kind of power of seeing that summative growth over time.
I mean, I think not even the summative growth, just that in the moment growth, because
Mm,
I'm not the internship coordinator. Like I'm
right,
Hannah's advisor, but I've never gone in and seen her at her internship. That's the
right.
internship coordinator who gets to do that and goes and checks and talks to her mentor. So, I mean, like, yeah, it's a place of business in our town. So I've been there once before, when I was ordering tires one time. But being able to see pictures of what she's doing there, and the skills and who she's working with, it makes it feel like I know her experience better. So it helps me to connect with her as an advisor more, to like know what she's really doing and see what it looks like. Um, Over time, being able to have that like pile of like, I did this, look, I did this, hey, I did this. It's like a picture resume for me when I see that student, to say, okay, well, now I know that student can do this and this and this skill because they documented it. And it's not just them saying it, they're showing it.